Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome back to Shelf Stories. Jason here with my latest Good Trouble reflection on a game announcement. As I'm here in August of 2022, an announcement came for a game that will launch on GameFound in January of 2023, if all goes well. The game is called Endeavor Deep Sea. So this is a world-spanning adventure with lots of Euro elements in which you are playing researchers, and you are trying to conserve the world, save the world. Very ecologically minded, deep sea being, going down into deep trenches and finding resources and doing research and publishing papers, all for the sake of conservation of the natural world. And as you can see, I do these videos from places like this. This is my beautiful place. I am very much a devotee of enjoying and treasuring the natural beauty that surrounds us all. So any game that not only is about conservation, but that promises to make it cool. I don't need like an educational game. I need something cool and heroic. So this looks like a very exciting project. So that's number one. Just wanted to tell people about that. Go ahead and flag that for when it goes on GameFound if that's of interest to you. The second thing about this particular project is that it is a reimplementation. You may recognize the word Endeavor. It is the reimplementation of Endeavor Age of Sail. The previous game was a world-spanning adventure, but it was age of exploration, your European explorers going out into the world and colonizing everybody. And you all know what I think about those types of games. As a matter of fact, this one's kind of a callback. It's kind of exciting. So the original video that I did that got me attention on Shelf Stories was called Checking Slavery and Colonialism in Board Games. Released in January 2021, in which I articulated my criticisms of two games, Puerto Rico, which don't have to say anything more about that, and Endeavor, Age of Sail. And the reason I wanted to focus on that second game is because it tried to grapple with the issues of colonialism and slavery. Like the old way, the way that the original Puerto Rico pursued and many, many other games, was to just ignore it, just focus on the daring do of European colonizers, and, everything was fine. They farmed the land, they made money, etc. And, as we know, that is not how it happened. There was slavery, there was violence, there was genocide, all the terrible things that we talk about. So then Endeavor tried to grapple with that in its mechanisms, not just like kind of write a paragraph in the rule book, but actually represent it mechanically, get people to focus on it and reflect on it. So how Endeavor did it was there was a deck of cards, and it represented resources that a player can get that were keyed off of slavery somehow. I don't have to go into the whole song and dance, but it was a deck that you can draw, and you got very powerful, a lot of kind of front-loaded resource power, but the other opponents could rush that deck and get to the bottom, which was a slavery abolished card. So, in the historical time period, it's kind of going 1500, 1600, 1700. At some point during the later time period, slavery was abolished. And in game mechanism terms, the person who had a lot of that slave resource now all of a sudden had all these negative points. So it's kind of a push-pull. Do you want to be evil, quote-unquote, and try to, extract as much wealth as possible quickly? Or did you want to kind of be a, quote-unquote, good colonizer and, trade and do all this stuff and play the long game towards, whatever you were trying to do? So underlying that is the idea of the good colonizer and the bad colonizer. And that's actually a approach that has been, I find it to be pretty prevalent in gaming, to be honest with you, as I get further and further into this cultural consulting stuff. So another example, this is a selection that Jeff Engelstein shared actually on Twitter from Twilight Imperium. I've never played Twilight Imperium. I may never play Twilight Imperium. It is the opposite of the kind of game that I enjoy, but a fictional, 4X colonization style game, and said the following as a disclaimer. For factions like Zacha and Nazraka, The bitter legacy of colonialism encourages them to pursue a more cooperative and respectful form of expansion. Conversely, factions like the Barony of Letnev and the Necrovirus have chosen to employ far harsher methods, from exploitative colonization to genocide. We believe that even a fictional setting can reinforce false narratives of colonialism, so our goal is to depict the settings of colonialism without glorifying it. Invaders and oppressors are described as such, and violence against the planet's inhabitants is not couched in softening language. We'll see about that. Once again, articulating the a possibility built into the mechanisms of playing either a dirty scoundrel or more of a nice person, and that distinction between like that there's different ways of colonizing, there's different ways of morally assessing that project. That's actually a thing in real life too, in the sense that when we think of bad colonizers, we think of very violent people, Genghis Khan, people in history who would take by force and rape and pillage and oppress the peoples and all that kind of thing. Very violent, warlike societies we think of as quote unquote bad colonizers, jerks, evil. And the good colonizers, quote unquote, were the ones who accomplished whatever they did by trade, economics. Let's establish trade relations, and there's nothing violent about this. We're just we're going to exchange our cultures and exchange our resources. There's going to be equal partnerships, or somewhat equal partnerships. Everyone benefits, everyone wins, and that becomes the better model of colonization. And if you look at what the board games are doing, it kind of, not exactly, but it tracks a little bit along those lines. At the end of the day, though, you land this idea that there's a distinction between the good and the bad colonizer. You see the title of the video, you know where I'm going. That idea that you could separate between good and bad here is a total myth. It is complete bullshit. Just the fundamental verb, the fundamental reality of colonization itself, I don't care how you did it, was bad. It implies an unequal relationship. It implies that there's a powerful and a less powerful, and the powerful is coming in and they're taking, and they're denying freedoms, and they're bossing people around, telling people what to do. It is their show now. That is colonization. And whether you did it with the sword or the pen, whether you did it with might or wealth, it doesn't matter. There's nothing good, nothing redeeming about colonization. And so that is a fiction that is told in our historiography, and it is a fiction that is told in our board games to make folks feel better. You have the choice, so you could be good or you could be bad. And yes, I just specified that being a colonizer, playing colonizer, has no redeeming value. I get the pushback very commonly, well, colonization did some good things. United the world and all that kind of thing. So I remember when I was taking history in college, and they showed, the Middle East and, Greece, and they showed the overlapping empires. And, all of us in the class were seeing like a bad thing. We're seeing conquest. And the teacher's like, I see a good thing. I see roads. I see development. We couldn't have had, human progress without this. And so, okay, can good things come out of colonization? Could we have gone to the moon, without, one country being the boss and, kind of project managing our way, humanity's way, to the moon and doing all these great things? We can have that discussion, but that's beside the point. The point is the actual colonizers themselves. That's what we're meant to play in these games. The merchants and the warlords that came into places and established the conditions of oppression. That is who we're playing. We're not playing 50 years down the road, all the benefits of colonization. We're not like building roads that will last forever. At least that's kind of a side thing if it's in the game at all. What are we doing to the land? What are we doing to the people there and to the labor that we exploit? That's what we're talking about. And for the most part, there is massive difficulty there, massive violence and oppression there that games don't equip us to talk about, at least how they're currently constructed. And when I say, being equipped to talk about this stuff, what I mean is, can we truly assess the pluses and the minuses of this grand project that humanity has embarked upon, the colonization of peoples, the setting up of social hierarchies? Can we truly assess whether that stuff is a net positive or negative if we are diminishing, whitewashing, erasing the negatives? I'm just surfacing the negatives. I'm not saying that colonization is this thing that never should have happened and let's never play a game about colonization, let's wipe the history from the record books. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I would like a more honest reckoning and weighing the pluses and the minuses. And if one truly believes that colonization was a net positive for humanity, then I would like to counter that in terms of actually righting the scales. I'll talk about some reparations for the colonized. The United States owes Puerto Rico billions in extracted wealth. The developed world owes trillions to the developing world for all that extracted wealth. You want to have that conversation? I would love to see board games enable that. And you know me, I go even deeper with this stuff. You get down into the guts of how board games in particular construct the good and bad colonizer. They're both so fake and designed to elicit comfort, and it just doesn't result in any reflection that is worth keeping whatsoever. So I've talked about this many times, the people who go down the bad colonizer route, they even there, board games, the way they're constructed, tend to let you off the hook. They tell you with their text and with the art, the big, muscular, strong colonizers, and they give you cards that are labeled evil. It's like you play the card called evil. It's like, look, I'm an evil colonizer. I'm a bastard. I'm a violent, all that kind of thing. Okay, and look, and board games model war all the time, and I've talked about that. I'm not talking about war and violence. I'm talking about oppression. Oppression is colonization. And so how would you, in a board game, elicit oppression over and above violence? Violence is an individual act. Oppression is when you take a peoples who want to be free and you deny them freedom systemically. And you deny them freedom consistently and violently. So I will always maintain no colonization game presents a valid experience of the bad guy unless there's slave rebellion in it, unless the people that you're conquering can rebel against you. Why? Because then it challenges the player to repress. That's where you get the badness from. That's where you get the viciousness from. When someone who is not doing what you want them to do, and you have to put all these resources into oppressing them and putting them back in their place, disciplining, punish. If you don't have the whip in your hand, I don't think that's a valid way to present colonialism, at least the bad part of it in a game. I think, without that, it's just, cosplay. People, it's just playing a card that says evil, as opposed to really helping the player understand what colonialism was all about in real life. So that's the bad end of things. The good end of things. What games claim is like a better version of Colonizer. Well, go back to the example of Endeavor. There was no choice in that day. The only people who opted out were the abolitionists, and they were on the outs for a very, very long time. It was very hard to be an abolitionist. You had a lot of societal repression and jail and all that kind of thing, if you spoke up too much. And anybody who made money in that time period engaged in slavery. It was not an opt-in, opt-out system. And presenting it as such is a dodge, is a comforting, a soothing balm that helps us ingest these colonization games and doesn't offer anything real for us to think about and talk about. And so now we are in a moment where we are looking forward. I released that video over 18 months ago, and in that time, both of the games that I discussed are getting major revisions, I think, for the better. So in the particular case of Endeavor Deep Sea, as I said in the intro, it is trying to tell this very positive story. And it is trying to do so within the mechanisms, right? It's giving you, I don't know how similar it is. The same design team is actually working on it. So I would like to hope that the design team, they understand what players want in the mechanical experience, and they're able to deliver it in this new package. Right? At the end of the day, the mechanism's got to be good. So hopefully, whatever made Endeavor Age of Sail good is, they keep whatever that is. The world-spanning adventure and, going all over the place and building your engine. Building. Gamers like to build. Gamers like to start with a little bit and then through their cleverness and their engine building, end up with something, big and grand. And so what we're used to is, building the big and grand thing and that being like this, colonized empire. And that was the paradigm for a long time. And what I've been arguing is it doesn't have to be that way. You could build big, grand, adventurous, cool things, and they don't have to be, evoke this historical, nostalgic to a certain group of people era. It could be forward-looking. As a matter of fact, I would like to encourage culture, art, games, movies, books, everything to look forward. I don't know if anybody's really noticed, but like we're stuck in kind of this era in our culture where it's just like backwards. And I can take some guesses as to why. Maybe we're a little bit scared for our future. We're not really thinking about it, but a game like Endeavor Deep Sea promises to look forward. And as someone who's getting more and more into the environmental stuff, that's kind of where the movement is trying to head, trying to put out a positive vision of the future. And in terms of board gaming, offering that to gamers who like to build. Here you go, build something cool. Do it towards a positive goal that could benefit everyone. So like I said, I don't know if Endeavor Deep Sea is going to be any good, but I like the promise. I like the fact the original designers are still on board. And they are, they're doing the design again. So it's not like, it's another person that's coming in there and doing it. I like that we're having critical discussions and looking at these things. I like that, these mechanical experiences aren't getting canceled. I never want to cancel any game. I want, all sorts of games. And my contention is that with, more open themes that people can enjoy, we'll get more games. Eventually, more people feel welcome here. So all that stuff. So that's my little wrap on Endeavor Deep Sea. I will be looking out for it, and I'm pretty excited about where it's going. The whole good and bad colonizer thing, game designers, game publishers, hit up Shelf Stories. My cultural consulting business is up, it's running, and if you want to me to help you, articulate a different vision for your game that is in history or that looks forward, then I would love to be of assistance. You can change your mind, you can change the world, people. So until next time, later, everybody.